Be it during harmonious times or mid second wave of a pandemic, there never seems to be a good time to talk about labor and human dignity. A noticeable trend is that people will stand up for others only when it becomes a viral piece of news. Any event as such will die down soon, and we're all back to square one. We want to add on to whatever precious little knowledge you have of the labor problems in our country, and hence would like you all to take a curious outlook onto a few case studies. Let's begin.
Recently, Uber and Ola drivers have demanded better wages and blacklisting of low-rated drivers to ensure a stable income. These drivers join the platform assuming they will earn 1 lakh per month. However, after Ola and Uber's commissions, their income has been declining to 20,000 to 30,000 per month, most of which goes to pay their loans. Drivers have committed suicide, poisoned themselves, etc. as a measure of protest. Uber and Ola spokesmen have disregarded such protests, claiming it's a forceful attempt by unions and external groups to demand more money. Government and policy makers are indifferent to the drivers' plights. In contrast, in UK, through a landmark judgment, it was ruled that Uber was in fact the formal employer and should subsequently offer a national living wage. Indian courts, on the other side, have described the job relationship between the cab platforms and drivers as purely contractual. The problem lies with the very structure of such labor platforms that ignores the rightful obligations of the aggregator platform. Labor platform industries are facing uncertainties in highly industrialized economies in the world. But in India, it is being underplayed because over 90% of India's workforce is employed within written contracts, lacking job and income security or any form of social protection. These platforms bring service providers, that is, workers, on through contracts, facilitating access to formal banking and taxation mechanisms. It gives power to such statutory bodies to tax such workers, their earnings add to banks' financial assets. However, the workers suffer at the end due to lack of social security benefits, paid leave, etc. Because of their meager income, they lack bargaining power. It is this information asymmetry and constantly fluctuating incentive design that forces Ola and Uber drivers to work an average of 12 to 16 hours a day, hence making them work against their own interests.
Now, let's talk about how Zomato and other similar apps treat their informal workers. Zomato and other similar startups are some of the worst workplaces to be employed in. A survey by 2 Oxford researchers rated Zomato 4 out of 10 for working conditions in India. Workers in the food delivery industry are not its employees according to their contracts. They are independent contractors or independent entrepreneurs. Zomato and other such apps argue that the app is not actually an employer, but an internet service or a platform which merely seeks to connect the customer, the restaurant, and the delivery guy. This is a way to avoid liabilities while employing 50,000 odd delivery executives. The delivery guys get little employment benefits and no fixed salary. They can be hired and fired at will. Such companies argue that the delivery guys are free to log in and log out anytime they want to and stress on the casual nature of their employment. This is far from the truth. Workers who work long hours with little breaks are favored by the algorithm. The incentives are provided in a hierarchical order of hours put in, with the high zone guy making progressively more on each order than those engaged in it casually. A lower zone delivery guy barely earns anything substantial. A field research has shown that while the workers are free to log out of work anytime they feel like, they are constantly pestered with calls and messages telling them how they are losing out of earnings by logging out in that moment. Thus, the workers are nudged to work inhumane hours by the food delivery industry. Therefore, the algorithm actively encourages delivery partners to work 16 to 18 hours or more in a day. On rainy days, when it is particularly dangerous for two-wheeler riding delivery partners, the incentives and the pay are the maximum. Most riders complain of back injuries after long hours of riding. Thus, the so-called casual work environment and the choice to take fewer orders is a myth. Unlike actual independent contractors, the delivery guy cannot solicit business on his own. Last year, Zomato organized a sensitization and soft skills workshop for its delivery partners after a video surfaced of a Zomato guy eating from a food parcel and sealing it back. All this suggests that these apps, in addition to telling them what exactly to do, is also telling them how to do it. Not to mention, Zomato being a food delivery app, these delivery executives are completely integrated into a system and form an indispensable part of it. Thus, a food delivery guy is, for all purposes, an employee, and yet these apps deny them their rights and benefits.
After listening to all these, subconsciously you will be thinking that people who work with such software giants will be just doing fine. But no, problems are precarious here too. Announcements about the information technology or IT-enabled services sector coming under the ambit of labor laws. There is ruckus about the industry becoming less competitive and employment declining because of the prospect of unionization. A 2016 clarification by the Tamil Nadu government that the IT or ITES industry is covered by the Industrial Disputes Act 1947 has created a similar uproar. The argument against the need for unionization is that this sector designs HR policies that maximize commitment to the organization, emphasize individual contracts rather than collective bargaining, uses employee involvement techniques, increases flexibility in working arrangements, and promotes teamwork. Yet, the issue of addressing workers' voices remains a concern. The IT industry provides employees room to negotiate for higher compensation and career advancement. It is also applauded for providing good grievance redressal procedures via open forum meetings, open door policies, and internet discussion for counseling and suggestion schemes. In addition to non-hierarchical structures and an informal work culture, merit-based promotions, career growth through tie-ups with educational institutions, and gender equality. Hence, many employees contend labor laws are irrelevant to the sector and unions are better suited to blue-collar occupations and low-wage service work. However, newspaper reports quote pro-industry commentators arguing that the industry thrives because of the absence of regulatory hurdles posed by antiquated labor legislation meant for the 19th century rather than the 21st century. However, those advocating a voice for employees through a collective underscore that the industry has been resorting to hire and fire, frequent recruitments and dismissals under the guise of non-performance. Further, they argue that employers often blacklist employees who disagree and impose deadlines constantly, deny the right to form trade unions, adopt discriminatory rating systems, and force staff to work irregular hours, issues which cannot be addressed by an employer-driven grievance handling system. The applicability of labor laws to this sector has been shrouded in ambiguity, and members of the industry have vociferously argued against it.
In conclusion, a promise of a formalized economy needs to come with a welfare state which, along with employers, guarantees basic rights and benefits to its workforce. There is no evidence to suggest that giving employee rights to these workers will make these companies unprofitable. As students, we hope that the system transcends into a better one and that we get to be a part of it.